I'm sure when people hear those numbers, that just 100 people account for 60 or 100 individuals, corporates, whatever they are, account for 60% of all loans. One has to ask the question, what's happening to the rest of Nigeria? I mean, aren't the banks supposed to serve the millions of Nigerians? So what really is the big issue here?
I guess it's not to argue about the numbers, because there will be statistics from the CBN, but it's a volume-driven issue, because if you look at if it's oil and gas or the large corporate organizations, if we use an example of a Dangote, many tier 1, tier 2 banks will lend to his companies and associated companies. So that would be a lot of billions of naira, or in terms of hundreds of millions of dollars. So if you compare that to the rest of the companies, if a little micro, small, and medium enterprise borrows 3 million naira from a bank, he will be 1 BVN, but what's the percentage of his loan to the overall lending? So it doesn't mean that banks are not intervening with micro, small, and medium enterprises. It's just a matter of percentages. But
I kind of doubt that will be the trend in most other countries, that only 60 corporates, or rather only 100 corporates or so account for 60% of all lending. I imagine that, yes, there will be those huge volumes linked to specific companies, but then again, is this telling us that we don't have too many large corporates in Nigeria? What's the big takeaway from that number for you?
Actually, there are very few very large corporates. If you take out the multinationals and those down below them, like at the large local corporates, there are very few. So if you look at the micro, small, and medium enterprise, a blue ocean, the rest of the companies in Nigeria fall under that screen. But they are the missing middle, because sometimes banks also tend to intervene with individuals, consumers. So it's easy to say, where do you work? You work at CNBC, so I can lend to you to buy your car and white goods in your house. But the SME who is struggling with 15 staff to pay, he's not yet a large corporate. He doesn't have the capacity to put his books in order. So he will not get a loan. He will get a loan longer than you would. So we deal within the banking industry tends to deal with the structured corporates and the individuals, leaving these middle SMEs who are really key to the economic development of the country. But it doesn't mean there are no interventions by banks or central bank to lend to them. It's just that there are key men risks associated with them. They don't have enough processes in place to ensure that their financials are in order. So I would always say a lot of the banks have to do with capacity building, to teach the SMEs how to assess funds.
Because I imagine this has been the case for a very long time, because we speak to bankers here and they tell us that, look, Esther, they tell me that, look, Esther, there's no good credit out there. And of course, they don't want to expose themselves to these SMEs or individuals or corporates who they know will not be able to pay back or could or likely run into troubled waters. I mean, if you just look at the industry NPLs, that's the story around that. So you speak about interventions. We know that the CBN, the Bank of Industry, are trying, they are the ones in the forefront of that intervention, trying to push for single-digit loans, especially for farmers and some portion of the SMEs. But I'm thinking that is our reality. And I'm thinking, and it's going to continue for a while, isn't it?
Yeah, but there are other things that even the government is doing that helps, like the movable collateral registry, that is supposed to make it a little bit more comfortable for banks to lend to the SME sector. I mean, it's on the verge. Many banks are just trying it out, so you need to build up that trust and comfort that the whole process works. And on the other side, you also have like Development Bank of Nigeria that has come on stream, and their whole focus is to do wholesale lending to the banks and microfinance banks just for MSMEs. So the story, it takes a long time to turn that.
Would you say that now, with all those interventions, there is tangible impact? Because it's serving as some kind of buffer if you're intervening, the CBN and the BOI and so on, the other development banks, if they're all intervening, it's towards, at easing the situation as it were and creating some kind of soft landing for those who would ordinarily would not get single digits.
Obviously, we're not where we were, like, if I say 2010, if we were to look at 2010 to where we are now, there have been many banks whose focus have been on the MSME sector and truly going out to that sector. And they've had their lessons learned. They've had huge MPLs, but they'll go back and tweak their products to ensure that they focus on that sector. It's a way to go because, as we've stated, there are very few large corporates.
Let me ask you this. We've been hearing about fintechs emerging.
Yes.
How are these likely to change these statistics, in your view?
Most of their products still focus on that individual I was talking about. So it's easy for you to go on an app, do this, do that. But if I need 5 to 10 million naira to expand my business, I may not be able to have that available to me on a platform. So I'll just go under the radar of...
But isn't this... Aren't these statistics telling us that many of those small businesses and individuals are unable to access credit? And so if the fintechs makes that access more possible, then perhaps we will see maybe a little more of a spread in terms of the volumes, more towards small businesses and individuals.
They are making an impact, but everything is still a slow process. And some have to find out what is the problem I'm trying to solve. Because they will not talk about their MPLs also. And you know CBN is also regulating them, or they have lenders' licenses from state governments. So they still have huge MPLs, but they're going out to use the information they've gathered. It could be about the way you make your calls. They'll be sure that you can borrow and blah, blah. But the amount of those fintechs going to SMEs, not individual, it's very low. And it's